I am Audie Murphy, the sister of Audie Murphy, the most decorated hero of World War II. Audie Murphy was a national hero, a Hollywood actor, and a man people respected for his bravery and honesty. But even though he was calm and quiet, there was one person in Hollywood who really got on his nerves more than anyone else. Who was this guy? And why did Murphy feel so strongly about him? Let's dive into the story behind the one person Audie Murphy truly hated more than anyone else. Born into a tough life. Audie Leon Murphy was born on June 20th, 1925 in Kingston, Hunt County, Texas. He came into a family that already knew what it was like to struggle every single day. His parents, Emmett Barry Murphy and Josie Belle Killian, were poor farmers trying to put food on the table during the hard years between World War I and the Great Depression. The family lived in really bad poverty. Their home often didn't have enough food, clothes, or basic things that most people would think they need. Nothing was stable or secure. The Great Depression hit rural families like the Murphys the hardest, and they had trouble making it work, even when things were going okay. For young Audie, every day taught him about giving things up and pushing through hard times. His father, Emmett, wasn't really a solid presence at home. He came and went from their lives, sometimes disappearing for long stretches without any explanation. When he was around, he didn't do much to help raise all those kids. Eventually, he left for good, leaving Josie Belle to handle the family all by herself. Josie did everything she possibly could. She was strong, tough, and determined to keep her big family together, but it was just too much weight to carry. Audie and his brothers and sisters had to take on adult responsibilities when they were really young. There was no time to dream about kid stuff. They worked wherever they could, doing random jobs to bring in money or food. Audie himself had to quit school after only 5th grade. Even though he liked learning, the family needed him to make money more than they needed him in school. From that point on, the young boy spent his days working in the fields picking cotton. The work was exhausting, especially under the hot Texas sun, and the pay was barely anything. He also worked as a farm hand and took any job he could find to bring home even a little bit of help for his mom. In 1941, something terrible happened that completely changed Audie's life forever. His mother, Josie Belle, died. Her death was heartbreaking for him. She had been the heart of the family, the one person who had somehow kept everything together after his dad left. Losing her meant losing not just a parent, but also the tiny bit of home and family feeling that was left. Audie was only 16 years old, and the sadness hit him hard. With Josie gone, the Murphy kids split up. The family that was already struggling because of being poor and having no dad was now completely broken up because they had no choice. Some of the younger kids were put in orphanages or children's homes. Others tried to find places to stay with relatives or friends. Audie, still barely more than a kid himself, had to figure out his own way forward, and this is where Audie's story begins to change. From a poor Texas boy fighting to survive to a young man stepping into a war that would change everything. Made strong through battle. When World War II started, Audie Murphy saw it as both something he had to do and a chance to change his life. He was still a teenager, but the war gave him an opportunity to get away from poverty and prove what he could do. The problem was the U.S. Army didn't think he was ready. At just a little over 5 feet 5 inches tall and weighing barely 120 pounds, he looked too young and too small to be a soldier. He got rejected at first for being underage and underweight. But Murphy wasn't the kind of person to give up easily. He kept trying, determined to find a way to join the armed forces. Finally, in June 1942, after he kept pushing and wouldn't give up, he was accepted into the U.S. Army. He was only 17 years old. Once he got in, Murphy threw himself into training with the same determination he had shown trying to enlist. After training, he was sent overseas and put in Company B, 1st Battalion, 5th Infantry Regiment, 3rd Infantry Division. His first stop was North Africa, where the U.S. Army was getting ready for big operations against the Axis powers. North Africa was not an easy introduction. The weather was brutal, with crazy heat and disease making combat even more stressful. But Murphy handled it quietly and got the job done. His serious attitude and focus made him stand out. He wasn't loud or showing off, but when it was time to act, you could count on him. By July 1943, during the invasion of Sicily, Murphy had already started earning respect from the other soldiers. In August 1944, Murphy played an important role during Operation Dragoon, the Allied invasion of southern France. It was one of the most important battles in the later part of the war, and Murphy's actions really stood out. He led attacks, kept his men organized under crazy gunfire, and showed smart battle skills way beyond what you'd expect for his age. These battles showed not only his bravery, but also his natural understanding of battle strategy. By this time, he had moved up to the rank of sergeant, which showed how quickly his commanders recognized how valuable he was. The next year, in 1945, Murphy made his name in one of the most important fights of the war in France. The Battle of the Colmar Pocket. Here, German forces were fighting hard to keep their position, and the Allies faced brutal fighting back. In the middle of all this chaos, Murphy showed incredible heroism. He personally directed fire at enemy positions, led attacks back at them, and refused to back down, even when things looked impossible. As the war continued, the list of medals and honors he got kept growing. Murphy collected almost every medal for bravery that the United States could give. These included the Medal of Honor, which was given for his amazing bravery and leadership during a battle near Holtzwihr, France, where he single-handedly fought off an enemy attack while he was wounded and outnumbered. He also got the Distinguished Service Cross, 2 Silver Stars for being brave, the Bronze Star, and multiple Purple Hearts for being wounded in battle. His record made him the most decorated American soldier of World War II, and just as the war ended, a completely new chapter opened up for Murphy, one that took him far from the battlefield and straight into Hollywood. From soldier to movie star. When World War II ended, Audie Murphy came home as one of the most decorated soldiers in American history. His bravery had made big news, and his story caught the attention of people way beyond just the military. Hollywood quickly noticed him. In 1945, offers started coming his way. Producers and directors saw not just a war hero, but also someone who could bring real authenticity to movies. America really wanted stories about the war, and who better to tell them than someone who had actually lived through it. Murphy didn't have any training as an actor, but his real-life experiences gave him something special. When he stepped onto a film set, he didn't have to pretend to know what combat looked or felt like. He had actually lived it. This realness made him a perfect choice for war films. Audiences were drawn to him because they knew his courage wasn't made up for the movies. Hollywood was full of professional actors, but Murphy was the real deal, and that gave him an appeal nobody else could match. In the late 1940s and early 1950s, Murphy started appearing in a bunch of films, many of them westerns and war dramas. Casting directors often put him in roles as soldiers or fighters because that was what people wanted to see. While he never fully fell in love with acting as his passion, he worked hard to do his best. His calm, straightforward way of being worked well on screen, especially in roles that needed quiet strength. The biggest moment of his film career came with To Hell and Back. This was way more than just a movie. First, Murphy had written his life story with the same title. Published in 1949, the book told his story of growing up poor in Texas, serving in World War II, and surviving battles that seemed impossible. Readers were captivated, and the book became a huge bestseller. Hollywood soon turned it into a film, and in 1955, Murphy played himself in the movie version. This was an unusual choice, but it worked out great. Nobody else could have shown his experiences with the same honesty. On screen, Murphy relived the moments that had shaped his life, including his most famous acts of bravery. Audiences responded really strongly. The film became one of Universal Pictures' biggest hits of the decade. For many Americans, To Hell and Back was not just entertainment. It was a way of understanding what soldiers like Murphy had actually been through. Playing himself gave Murphy credibility that no actor could copy, and it locked in his place in Hollywood history. Murphy carried with him the invisible scars of the war. He suffered from what was called battle fatigue back then, but what we now know as post-traumatic stress disorder. He had bad nightmares all the time, struggled with not being able to sleep, and was often on edge. These struggles, along with the pressures of Hollywood life, put stress on his marriage. After only 2 years, they got divorced. Later in 1951, Murphy got married again, this time to Pamela Archer. Pamela wasn't part of Hollywood's fast-paced world. She worked as an airline stewardess, and her down-to-earth personality gave Murphy the stability he really needed. Their marriage lasted, and together they had 2 sons. Family life brought him comfort and a sense of normal life that had been missing for so long. Despite his busy war,